lot of times we just want to say the school system failed us or the public schools failed us. You know, what stops us from looking up Black history for ourselves? What stops us from talking to our grandparents, great-grandparents, people around this community that experience different things, segregation, and the civil rights movement? It's people in our own families we can research. Like Council said, we need to learn more than just the Martin Luther King, the Rosa Parks. I mean, there's more. It's more. It's more. And then a lot of times, even the school system, they feel obligated because it is a Black History Month, so they want to cram as much as they can in that month. And they're like, as long as we take care of and address Black history for this month, we good to go. So we kind of label and fill it for ourselves by blaming the school systems and actually have, like, with Black History Month, we just feel like we have to do Black history. We got to teach them. You know, that's what we got to do because that's the month set aside for it. So I just feel like we need to go out and be more productive and look into it for ourselves, not depending on the school systems.
Yes, I agree.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Dr. Montag was first.
Oh, go ahead.
You know, I teach Black history here in my background, and when people ask me why did I study it, why do I teach it, why am I interested, you know, when they look at me and say, well, they assume why I'm interested. And when I studied it for all these years, I figured out that the reason I was studying it was not because I wanted to know the people. You saw these wonderful figures around here. It was not to get to know them, but because it helped me get to know me. And not simply because they were African American, but because they did something unique, which was understand that the history taught them to forge their own paths. These are people who forge their own paths, their own roadways. And that's what history does. It teaches you about how to forge your own destiny, how to forge your own identity, to forge who you are. And these people, all these backgrounds, and all these challenges, recognize that that was their responsibility to themselves, to others, and to the untold millions who come. So when I do it for me, today, because I'm living, and for those who will learn from that and say, I'm going to forge my own future, my own destiny tomorrow. So for me, it's the most valuable learning lesson I have about being a human being.
And I do have just a pointed question, right? Just a question. Does the lack of information make you feel like that there is a disparity, that it should be a moment where we should stand up and say, let's learn Asian American history, let's learn some of these things? Does that occur?
Well, see, that's when the gentleman here says that, you force feed everybody on Black History Month. Well, there's Asian Pacific Heritage Month, and nobody in this room probably can tell me what month it is. So the thing is, though, is that the school system, to be lucky, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes we got to be grateful. Be lucky the school system recognizes 1 month. When by federal Congress law, okay, a proclamation that the Asian Pacific Heritage Month was established during the school year, you hear nothing but, you don't learn anything about me. You don't learn anything about me. As far as my background, my history, within the American history. And the thing is not acknowledged. For example, we have Black History Month this month, right? Did anybody know that Monday was Chinese New Year?
Yes.
Okay. But the thing is, though, it's not acknowledged. So my thing is that that's an educational part. Let's be grateful that we have 1 month that we can celebrate the people that have contributed to American history, but also the fact that we have to be sensitive that there are other ethnic groups in this world that have been totally ignored. But that, in spite of that, my parents told me succeed in spite of, not because of.
Sure. I think that you're making a great point. And I do think that there should be some gratefulness in finding that we do have Black History Month. But I watched a presentation the other day, and a Caucasian lady was in a group of people, with a bunch of Caucasian individuals in it. And one of the things that spoke to me that there needs to be more is the fact that she said, anyone in this room that would volunteer with the African American, please stand up. And no one stood up. No one stood up. And that in itself proves that there's some type of disparity there. So as we build upon that, we move to the next question. Do Black lives matter, or do all lives matter?
It's both. It's both.
Okay.
I think that we have to have Black Lives Matter as a movement. It's a simple movement. And the reason that we have to have that is because there has to be an emphasis right now on what is currently happening. When you take away and say all lives matter, you are diminishing the vast majority of African American people who are being targeted. So you have to have both. All lives do matter. That's inherent. We know that. That's human nature. Anyone who studies any type of humanities should understand that all lives matter. But when you are creating a movement, when you are trying to really focus on a specific topic or a specific issue, you have to say what that issue is. And by doing Black Lives Matter, you are shining a light on something that we for years have known about. And finally are getting that conversation started and figuring out what do we do about the injustice and the indifference with African American youth. You know, they go to prison on such a larger scale than any other group. So there has to be an emphasis on Black Lives Matter.
When they say Black Lives Matter, they have to say Black Lives Matter too. Black Lives Matter also. Everybody understands lives matter. It's like student union. You go to the government institution, right? And you have a student union. Obviously, it's a student union for everybody. But when you go to that student union, it's pretty much based because of the population is anything like the general population. The minorities are going to make up 10, 20% of the city. So it's going to lean more towards Caucasian as far as student union. When you then add a black student union, you put a little more emphasis on having a place for minority students to get together and also participate in the same kinds of activities and make sure that that gets covered also. So when you talk about lives matter, everybody understands lives matter. But when you say Black Lives Matter, if somebody's confused about that, help them out and say, what we're saying is that Black Lives Matter too. Okay, well, also, because from what we're seeing, you know, all over social media, we're seeing some things that are disturbing me. I know certain things now, but when I actually see them, they disturb me too. And so I think the emphasis has to be on Black Lives Matter too, to make sure everybody gets the point.
That's a great point. Has anybody heard of Campaign Zero? Anybody here? Campaign Zero. You will see some of the members from Black Lives Matter. They help facilitate Campaign Zero. And Campaign Zero is about all lives. Contrary to what most people believe, that Black Lives Matter is strictly about Black lives. In actuality, it's about the thousands of people annually losing their life, no matter what you are across the board. So when you dig a little bit beneath the surface, you realize that Campaign Zero, who was again facilitated and assisted by some of the Black Lives Matter members, they actually care about all lives. They're talking about the police brutality. In 2014, I know Japan had 0 lives lost in their country. No police brutality, no murders. So when you look at that type of stuff, you'll realize that it's deeper than just that. That's just what we see in media. You know, we see that, and we see the instead of protesting, it's riots. You know, it's a difference. You know, they shine the light over here on a little bit of the riots, when 90%, 95% over here protested peacefully. So I challenge people to look beneath the surface. Also, we the protesters is another. I recently read that earlier, and it's really good. Again, there's some members that's the leaders in Black Lives Matter is helping again with that. .org. We the protesters.org and Campaign Zero.
Speaking of the Black Lives Matter movement, I think it's a great movement. It's a job that needs to be addressed. But my thing with them, I've been researching here a lot lately. There's not a lot of talk about what's going on in the black community, how blacks are killing blacks way more than any is killing any other black man. So I just think that's something that they need to address if they're going to be Black Lives Matter. Or they need to change the name to maybe Black Lives Matter to police officers. Not just Black Lives Matter, because I haven't found that they're addressing the situation.
Go ahead, Lexi.
Yeah, just one point I wanted to make, and this is just coming from the democratic understanding. When we think about gun violence in the United States, we have to realize that 2/3 of gun violence is white people killing themselves. And that 1/3 is only black and brown violence, us killing each other. So I think that needs to be, addressed and understood when we talk about all this black violence and this black and brown violence on each other. It's really a small number compared to, the actual number of gun violence deaths in the United States. So, again, the mass media, the institutions feed us, feed us this scenario that's not really accurate. And I think one thing that we need to do is always have our facts and have our education, straight before we start to speak on these matters.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Robinson that also needs to be added because where I came from, I was there when the Baltimore riots happened. A lot of people didn't see that happen. And the thing is, though, is that Black Lives Matter also, but I believe that Caucasian lives matter, Asian lives, all lives matter. The thing is, though, is that I talked to when I came from a predominantly black school before I got here. We talked about the fact that scientifically, okay, does anybody know the definition of matter? Anything that takes up space. So guess what? Everybody matters according to science. Okay. Also, I can't agree with your analogy of death among blacks. All you have to do
That's the facts.
So go to FBI table number 6, and the stats are laid out for all ethnic groups. FBI homicide table 6. Okay. And the thing is also is that every time we hear these narratives and stuff like this, we put a clump of minorities, and always, we don't talk about Asian achievement or none of this stuff. And so I think all lives matter, but I agree with Mr. Patterson that also should be put in there because otherwise it's sometimes perceived to come across as a segregated group, fighting for only one cause, not a complete cause.
Right. And
I talk about the FBI data, there was no uniformity among states or requirement that states have to support that data. So the data will be skewed, and it's skewed very much so.
And one other thing I'd like to point out is the fact that when we say Black Lives Matter, this is an illustration of the social unrest that we have going on in the United States. So when we say Black Lives Matter, it's no different than when we said Jewish Lives Matter during the Holocaust. So it's to tackle social injustice. And Black Lives Matter is just one area that needs to be addressed. Asians, absolutely. Right. Asians need to be addressed as well, but we need, Asians from their own community to step up and do what we do, and try to educate ourselves and have these forums to, incorporate all lives. But we are speaking for ourselves because this is the group that we are.
It's on the responsibility. If they won't do it, who will?
Right.
The responsibility lies on us. Moving on. I think we're going to get to the next topic. Just briefly with our panel, so let's look at our panel. Does being pro-black equal being anti-white? And everything you say is the white people trying to bring you down. If you want to go pro-blacks, it's two different pro-blacks. You have people that's pro-black and educated and look in and research. You got the extreme people that's pro-black. So everything that someone do to them is against us. It's the man trying to keep us down. The white man don't want to see me do anything. All they see is the Caucasian brothers or the Caucasian people against us, and that's the enemy. So they always on the defense. Being pro-black extremists. Like I said, it's two different pro-black.
Did you see anything beneficial coming from that state of mind?
Being extremists?
Being extremist?
No, not whatsoever.
No, I agree with you. If you point the finger, and that's not gonna help you. We gotta worry about how you're gonna help yourself. At the end of the day, we gotta look into ourselves and be self-sufficient. I agree with that.
And Ansel mentioned Baldwin earlier. I mean, if you read him, he was all about, if anything can be done about race relations in America or make it better in any way, you know, it's got to be black and white together. So I think, you know, any kind of, antagonism between those two things is kind of false a lot of times. I mean, a lot of progress can be made by having people of all races come together. I think that's a lot about what the Black Lives Matter movement was trying to get to go back to that for a second. I mean, what you're taught in history, what it seems like often is the case in this country, because obviously white lives matter, that matter the most. And so it's not just that black lives don't matter, in so many policies in American history since the very beginning, black lives have mattered less than whites, frankly, against the government, to a lot of all across. So I mean, it's attacking the system of white privilege, which thrives on silence. So bringing that out to the front, I think, doesn't have to be making kids white and black people together, which is the important thing is to have a discussion and a dialogue, which I think is a positive thing.
Yes, in thinking of the pro-black question, when you look at our media and our culture, sometimes things don't have to be said and you understand it. And sometimes when you say something, that's when people question. Case in point, if you say black is beautiful, then people are challenged by that. Why are you articulating it? But if you watch certain shows and you see what is the standard of beauty, it's not being articulated to you as in this woman represents what beauty is. This woman represents what the desire is. This young man right here, this is what the look is. So it's not articulated, but inside your psyches, you understand. So but if you say black is beautiful, hey, I love my black collar, people start to get kind of nervous about it. What are you actually saying? So
Black is beautiful too.
Excuse me?
Black is beautiful too.
No, I'm not saying.
He's in
That's what I'm saying. But sometimes, if you don't articulate, you can find yourself lost in the greater society that you're not represented. You know, every year when The Bachelor comes on, The Bachelorette comes on, you know, there are people that watch this and they see I'm not part of that equation, which almost takes you back to the experiment with the white doll, black doll. You know, where which doll is beautiful, which doll is bad. And because you get inundated with enough images of this is good over here, this Shirley Temple, oh, she's good, she's fun, she's exciting. And then you get the black doll, and you only have so many images of black images. So who's good? That's why you see a lot of black girls. Oh, the little white doll with the white hair. Now, and the dolls can be equally beautiful, but it's in our psyche. So I think when we say if you exhibit that you highlight yourself and things that represent you, are you being anti? The answer is no. If I wake up in the morning and say, man, I'm the most handsome dude in the world, it does not diminish anybody else in this room. I'm what's the word? I'm just elevating myself. I'm building myself because that's what you got to do to make it in this world. So I'll stop right there. Hold up back. Oh, turn around. Hold up. What? That? No, I know I'm fine with him. On the back.
Almost perfect. It's like you did it perfect. All right. And just briefly, and so we can all agree on this, how important is it that we sometimes check out media and check into it well? Because how can we agree that the media, social media, whether it's news or any coverage, is directed, and there is directed? Can we agree on that? We got some other stuff to come.